So welcome everybody to another episode of the Scottish Property Podcast. My name's Nick Ponte. I'm joined with Stephen Clark, my co-host. How you doing, Stephen? It's just me and you here today.
Good, Nick. No guests. This first time we've not done a guest for a couple of weeks, isn't it?
Yes, but don't be worried. You won't be disappointed because we've got a good topic. I know a lot of people are interested in flipping properties. So today on the show, we're going to be talking about flipping properties and how you can flip properties during lockdown, because we've got a really good case study for you. Stephen's just completed on a project in Kinross and had a phenomenal result, and that was actually bought and sold within lockdown periods, wasn't it, Stephen?
Yeah, absolutely. And it shows the change in the market and the opinion on the markets, because when I first got that property back in mid-July, the property market had only just opened. And I think we discussed it on a podcast or just off air, saying that it was a bit of a risky strategy and I really wanted to get in and out as quick as I can before the market collapsed. And it was very much a worry to when I sold it. I was like, shit, the market's really, really hot and I probably could have got a hell of a lot more for it. So it's quite an interesting point in the way the markets went.
Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit in general about how we see the market at the moment for buying and selling properties, i.e. flipping, and then we'll put it into context with an actual real life case study, and we'll touch on the Kinross project. By the way, guys, if you want to see how Stephen's done on that, go and check out his Instagram stories, because he's literally just handed over the keys, haven't you? And it's just completed, and you've basically documented that one really well on your Instagram and on the Facebook group.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to try and create a highlights today on my Instagram and put all the stories up on it so you can see the journey over the last 5-6 months on that project.
And the numbers are very juicy as well. It's got to be said.
It would be juicy if the money dropped in my bank account, which is due to drop at any moment. Could have shared that one live.
Is that why you keep looking on the other screen there?
I keep looking at my phone.
I'm sure it's just the solicitors. The solicitor's probably paying you by check, mate, so it might arrive in 3 days in the post.
3 weeks' time, yeah.
3 weeks' time.
No, absolutely. I think it's a great subject to talk about, because I love flipping properties. As much as I do like building a portfolio and holding assets, I do enjoy flipping properties. You can get so creative with the refurb. And, well, let's talk about the right now situation. Is people are kind of fed up, with their own surroundings. So if you live in a flat or a smaller house, you're looking to buy somewhere. So the opportunity in the market right now to sell something and get an extremely good price on it is probably never really been greater, is it?
Well, obviously, let's look at the last 12 months and see how obviously the corona has affected, the market, and the opportunities are there now or not there. So obviously back in March, everyone went into lockdown. Nobody was really allowed to do anything. The property market shut for 3 months. End of June, beginning of July, opened back up. There was huge pent up demand, and then there was no properties that had come on in the market for 3 months, so the demand for properties well outweighed the supply, so property prices just went absolutely through the roof. So you did well even picking up a deal back then, do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And the estate agents that I've actually spoke to said that they did their best year last year, and they only had their businesses open for 3/4 of the year. So they missed a quarter of the year during the property market being shut, but still managed to do their best year. And I heard this a couple of times from local estate agents that I speak to. So yeah, it was a phenomenal busy year for the market. And it shows that we had a lot of lockdown live chats as well during the first lockdown, and everyone was very doom and gloom about the market. We all thought it was going to ready for a crash. We all thought it being kind of pent up demand. It was peaking. It was ready for its little crash. And in buying this one in Kinross, I thought exactly the same. But we were all wrong.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because I kind of split it into, I kind of really look at who's buying the properties, right? And you think to yourself, where's the market there? So obviously you've got your first time buyer market, which is basically flats. Most young people who are getting on the property ladder are looking at, getting a 1-2 bedroom flat. And then you think to yourself, right, well, that market could potentially be a wee bit affected, because what we found was people were struggling a little bit, first time buyers, to get mortgages and that, because they increased the amount you needed as a deposit. But where I really see the opportunity is the family homes now, and we'll dive into obviously your project in Kinross, because that could have been a family home. I know it wasn't a family that bought it in the end, was it? But the family homes where people are needing the more space. What we've got now is people working from home, a lot of the big companies now that have got offices in the city centre, they're basically saying to their employees, right, we don't like really need for you to come in the office like full time Monday to Friday. Take a couple of days working from home, 2-3 days a week. So people are looking now for that extra bedroom for their office space. They're looking for more space, garden, and priorities have really changed. They don't necessarily need to be, in the city centre, close to the city centre. So for me, that's a potential opportunity. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And Kinross was targeted specifically for that as well, the family market, because I completely agree. The way I see it is, and the people are probably around our ages and our professions and business owners, stuff like that. I've not seen them being affected hugely by coronavirus, whereas the lower end of the market, people in hospitality jobs and the lower paid salaries, I've seen that market getting affected because obviously a lot of the rental properties are rented out to these tenants, and I've saw that market getting affected quite severely. So I think flipping properties, I think you would have to pay attention to your exit. Who's exactly what you just touched on there, Nick? Who's your end user? Is it first time buyers? I probably would avoid it at the moment. But is it family homes that, aimed at young families that are earning, I don't know, 40, 50 grand a year? These jobs haven't been made redundant yet. They're still quite solid. They're working from home. They're still on full pay. Or if they have been, they're on, 80% furlough pay. So I think you're right. I think that you really need to be careful of your end user when looking at your flip projects. And right now, I think you're spot on.
Well, that was one of the fears, isn't it? People are going to say this is going to be mass unemployment. This is going to cause a property crash. I probably said it myself right at the start. But, if you look at the unemployment, yes, okay, unemployment rate is going up. There's more and more people getting made redundant. But if you look at the sectors that are really affected by the redundancies, you're talking about the travel and tourism, hospitality, hotels, restaurants, bars, all that. Like you said there before, majority kind of younger on lower incomes, I would say. So I think 50 to 60% of that unemployment rate is probably like under the age of 24. So then you think to yourself, well, first time buyers probably market, when you're getting on the property ladder, probably 24 onwards, then you think to yourself, the people who are on the higher incomes, like you said, they've not really been affected too much at the moment. I mean, retail workers and all that, they're probably on pretty low incomes as well. People that work in shops, a lot of students and stuff like that being made unemployed now. I think you're on the money there with, I don't think it's going to be hugely affected. There is a lot of people that are sitting there with like loads of money in the bank as well, because they've not been able to go on holiday, they've not been able to spend money. We've been locked up in our houses. So I think when things start getting back to normal, I just cannot see prices dropping in the market, which is why I think flipping properties is still a good strategy, at least for the next 12 months, because I can't see a drop in the market personally.
Yeah, absolutely. My street is filled with joiner vans and builders and plumbers. Like everyone in these streets are getting their bathrooms fitted, their kitchens done at the moment. So yeah, like you say, people are either sitting with a lot of money or excess money from not going on holiday, not going out, eating, drinking, enjoying life the last almost a year. So yeah, there's extra cash there, and if that means that people want to move and go up the ladder or get the kind of dream family home, then there's definitely an opportunity to capture that market.
One thing to be said, obviously, if you're at the start of your journey in terms of your flipping or developing properties, then quite a lot of people are looking for an entry point, which is the kind of lower value flats, like under 100 grand or whatever, so that they can just, dip their toe in the water, try it out. But the problem with that market is there's just so much competition, so many people looking for the same properties. And what you're tending to find is, the margins are very small. And the other thing is there is a lot of people looking for, first-time buyers and homeowners who are not really necessarily they're not bothered about making a profit. So, bank and mum and dad will step in and help pay over and above the home report value, which means that it's very difficult to get these properties.
Yeah, no, absolutely. My last probably 5 or 6 flips, I've avoided the kind of sub 100 area. It's always been between 100 and 200,000 pound kind of purchase price, because like you say, you eliminate the competition or the majority of the competition, because most people are looking for the low hanging fruit, the cheap houses and flats they can just spend a quick 20 grand on it and flip it on. So yeah, I think that's definitely more an opportunity that could be looked into.
Cool. So what I love about having you as my co-host on the Scottish Property Podcast is that you are very active, mate. You are absolutely churning out the deals, and you've just completed on this Kinross project, like we said at the start. Let's just talk a little bit about that, and I'm interested to find out, how did you find that one again? How did that one come to you?
So yeah, that was a chat about within the mastermind group at the start of last year, so 2020, before coronavirus kicked in. And there was quite a lot of guys in the group who were kind of struggling with the fear of renovations, didn't know where to spend, didn't want to go and buy something and then come across costly mistakes, and not spotted something damp or a big roof repair or something that was going to eat into the budget and obviously affect a profit margin. So I kind of suggested, well, the flips that I usually look at between the 100 and 200 grand mark, there's enough meaty profit in there to do a group joint venture if anyone wants to do it. So that raised quite a lot of interest. Obviously our meetings was at Jerry Alexander's place in Kinross, at the pizza place at the courthouse. So while we were in that area and looking, one of the guys that spotted the property in Kinross was on the open market, and it was on the open market for offers over 135 grand. So we viewed it a couple of times with two or three of the guys in the group, and it was very much it was basically a little cottage and a terraced house that was converted into one, but it was very much bitty. It didn't flow. It was all over the place, and it took a few viewings, and I mean an hour viewings each time to try and get your head around what you could do with the space, how creative you can get with the space. And because the property was on at that, it was a 4-bed house in Kinross, which Kinross is a really, really good area. There's a huge amount of interest. And because you had to sign in the sheet when you took the keys from the stage and to go and view it, because there was a rotten timber on one of the kitchen floor. So you can see everyone's name that signed in it. So there's a lot of interest, but no one had bit the bullet and jumped in. I think they were struggling to get their head around how to make this property work. And so we'd offered on it, and we were trying to, looking at the numbers, it looked like you needed to get it for 112 grand, and they weren't willing to budge at all. No, market's buoyant, we're not willing to budge. Along came, we got it accepted, before lockdown at 128,000. So we managed to get a mere 6-7 grand off the asking price. So it wasn't a huge deal, but we thought we can add the value. We've figured out our plan. We can pay a little bit more. And then coronavirus came along, and when it opened back up, I said, look, we're pulling out this deal. There was a bit of turmoil in the market, didn't know what was happening. And she said, look, so I eventually went back and forth with the estate agent, and they agreed that basically their client needed to get rid of the debt that was paid on it, that was on the property, and it was 121 grand, 121,500. So we got a further 6.5-7 grand off the price that we agreed at the start of lockdown. So yep, the numbers stacked up, and it was very much a couple of X's, and I kind of spoke to you about that as well. Like I hate not going into a flip where you can kind of put a buy-to-let mortgage in it and refinance it if shit goes wrong in the market, and it didn't really work for that. You probably could have SA'd it, but it was a unique one that didn't really work for plan A, plan B, or plan C, which made me a bit nervous. But say the house worked for a couple of different options. One, you could have split it and you could have put it back into a 1-bedroom cottage, converted up in the attic space, probably got a 2-bedroom cottage at one side and a 2 or 3-bedroom house at the other side. Now, once we got the keys for it and we started stripping it out, I had a couple of issues with refurbs I'd started doing at the time, and one of the issues that I had was SGN's gas connections. They were basically saying, phone back in 2 or 3 months' time, and then you'll get put on the waiting list. They weren't accepting any more calls. So that was going to cause a huge delay in a refurb to try and get split services. And the next one was building warrants and planning permission. So they were taking months because of the kind of backlog that they had. And obviously the nervousness off the market, I thought, you know what, let's go for the low-hanging fruit, let's keep it as one property and let's submit a building warrant. So we came up with a kind of creative solution to basically knock out all the rooms, all the walls and all the rooms in the 1-bedroom cottage. So I had a galley kitchen, a big bathroom, small bedroom and a small living room, knock the whole lot out, vault the ceilings, put Velux windows, bifold doors looking over the garden, and make that a big, huge kitchen lounge.
It's beautiful space. Everybody go and check out the photos on Steve's Instagram. It was, I've got to be honest, right? See, when I saw the outside pictures at the start of this house, I was like, that looks like a pure shithole. And it was a shithole, obviously. It's like, And obviously, you didn't really do much to the outsides front of the building. I mean, no, you did quite a bit out the back, but and I thought, how is this going to be attractive at like what they're trying to aim at the market? Because they're going to do an amazing job inside. But obviously the inside space, what you've done with that open plan kitchen and with the Velux windows and creating that kind of light and then bifolds out the back, that was the selling point, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we did overspend on that against the budget. There's probably about a $6 or $7 overspend. And it was just due to the structural requirement of the roof. Because we're raising the roof so much, we were required to kind of reinforce basically the whole roof and bolt the new C24 9x2s timbers all the way around the whole roof structure right the way around. So that the insulation required for it as well was huge. Kingspan, insulated plasterboard, and about 400 mil of wool as well. So there was huge amounts of insulation required. So there was a bit of overspend on that. But the numbers that we based the end product on was 240 grand selling price, and I think that the overspend on that area did make us smash through that price. So that
just quickly, while we're on that, you went for 240 for your end value. What did you get for it?
So 240 was the end value. We got 2.5.
2.6.
So,
and just while we're on the numbers, because we don't want to go into it later, we'll just skim over the top. What was the total spend?
Total spend was just under 50 grand.
So purchased for
121.
121. Spend 50, and then right, okay.
See Nick rattling the numbers. So do you know the annoying thing about it? And I was actually thinking of Ross Harper's comments a lot when I was selling it, and I can go over the selling details now, or we can go into it later. It's up to yourself.
We'll go later, mate, because I've still got a couple of things I want to ask about the refurb.
Yeah. So the existing house part of it wasn't requiring a huge amount. The one room was changed, and it was basically to create a downstairs bathroom and a utility room. So since the kitchen was going to be a kitchen lounge area, we made a utility room as well. And basically the reason why we had to, we put an upstairs shower room. And to do that, we had to move a wall out 300 mil to drop the 4-inch waste under the floor down to the ceiling and drop the ceiling in that room downstairs. So that was the majority of the refurb. And like you said, touched on before, the outside was a lick of paint. Magnolia on the walls outside, it was a nice light grey. Finished, we replaced all the windows and doors from grey on the outside and white on the inside, and the bifold doors, and we landscaped all the garden at the back. A sleeper kind of wall, retainer wall, steps up to the garden, all new 6-foot fence all around it, and turf, and just gravel on the car parking. So yeah, that was the basics of the refurb. But what we did was that I think we want to touch on was, come 2 or 3 months into the project, I wanted to exit as quick as I could. So the idea was to, once it was fully plastered, we got the whole thing spray painted white, and we wanted to try and market it to potential buyers. So we wanted to put it on open market, and we wanted to make it a unique selling point that if you want to live in Kinross and pick your bespoke finishes on your house, you can pick your kitchen, bathroom, doors, tiles, flooring, colours, all that kind of stuff. We'll spec the interior to your fit.
Like almost buying off plan, if you like.
Yeah, pretty much. And really what we were aiming for was a cash buyer who was either looking for their kind of either their downsized forever home, and they can just do it once, pick it out, and they're happy to go. Because obviously the cash buyer means we could sell it quicker and have to wait the 6 months, and it would have guaranteed us a sale in an uncertain market. So we had three really interested parties that were going back. But a lot of interested parties, but 3 were basically ticked the mold of what we wanted. Cash buyers, their house had sold, they were either in rented accommodation or their sale was away and go through. And we went with one couple, and basically they were moving up from Dunfermline with their kids that are older. One's already left the house and one was still staying in the house, I think. So so we went with them, and basically they picked out their kitchen, bathroom tiles, full finished to spec. The downside of this bit, and this is what we kind of touched on what I was thinking about Ross Harper saying, was he was always saying, you're in and out, if you can trade properties and make enough money what you think, then you can get going. During the finishing of the property, it was kind of clear the market wasn't slowing down. And when you look at I got the home report carried out on the property when it was whitewashed, and ready to be fitted out. And my surveyor came out and says, look, I think 275. And obviously we'd accepted 262.5. And I said, look, we're happy to honour that price, completely honour that price. Now, frustratingly enough, as the finishes over December and January went on, I saw the market still going hotter. I was thinking, shit, we could probably get 300 grand for this and probably more. And the buyer last week, when the sale was going through last Friday, they asked for the home report to be refreshed. So my surveyor popped back out, and he says, "Do you know what?" He's like, "I think you could probably go into 300 grand with this going on the market right now." And I thought, do you know what? I'm happy. Easy come, easy go. Like, we got in and out. We got a guaranteed sale back in October, November. So it didn't really happen. Didn't really matter what happened with the market. We'd already kind of secured our sale, concluded and stuff like that. So it made sense for us to exit the project and know we can move on to another project as well without being put on the market and dictating on the market whether it actually sold or didn't sell.
But I like that because you didn't get too greedy and you had a cash buyer, right? So you looked at the market conditions, this coronavirus basically, meltdown, potential dip in the economy and house prices, which obviously didn't happen, but you're assessing the risk there and you're thinking, how can I minimize that risk? And I think, in hindsight, obviously you could have got more, but I think you made the right decision at the choice. It could have gone any way.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. No, definitely. And I suppose I can talk about the downsides, the positives and the negatives of doing something like that. So I put this in the Scottish Property Podcast Facebook group page, and a few people had said, no, I would wait until it goes in the market and sell it. And absolutely right. Like, they've got a good point, because effectively we were finishing the property for the buyer. So you're basically working as a client to finish their spec. So rather than just, it's on the open market, have a walk around, agree the sale price, pick up the keys, you can effectively walk away from it at that point. We've had to kind of hold their hand, go through their pick and go through the finishes and stuff, and then come the sale price, it's like, oh yeah, we're not quite happy with this part. No, the sales obviously only went through 4 or 5 days ago, so there's a couple of little bits of snagging thing that they're come back to, and obviously we're still like acting on behalf of them. So it wasn't quite a clean cut in and out. There's a flip, there's a done and dusted. So there was a little bit more work involved in communicating with the buyer and kind of making sure they were keen on their spec and picking their spec and
Does
choosing
that turn into a bit headache then? Because effectively you're turning into like, you've now got to deliver a lot of customer service. Do you know what I mean? You're now at their kind of beck and call, aren't you?
Thankfully, I know my strengths and weaknesses, and that would have been one of my weaknesses. So I nominated one of the joint venture partners to deal with the buyer. He was the buyer relationship.
I hope it wasn't your brother, was it?
Definitely not. That would definitely not have been his strength.
Was that a challenge, Billy? I was going to ask, what's your challenges? Is that a challenge working with your brother?
Yeah, my brother can put effort in. He's a grafter. Like, he can put work in. But when it comes to running a project, he's a joiner to trade, so he knows being a joiner. That was definitely challenging, and trying to hold them to deadlines and time frames and budgets, and was a nightmare. But yeah, apart from that, it was good. It was good to have him involved.
If you're listening to this, Darren, nothing personal, nothing.
It was good to get him involved in it, and his business has been affected a lot by coronavirus. He runs martial arts gyms, but he's a joiner of trade. So it was nice to say to him, look, pull your bounce back loan in here, get in this project, join in with us. This is what you're doing. You're bringing a skill set to the table that you can bring as a joint venture partner, and it's kept him busy for a few months as well, which it's obviously gave him a good payout. So it's been good for him.
Cool. So, I mean, obviously it was a big one, mate. I mean, looking back at the pictures, you dug up the whole soul. You were right out the dirt, weren't you? Like the whole solum, you had to relay pretty much all the floor and everything.
Yeah, the cottage section itself had obviously leaks in the bathroom, leaks in the kitchen, but the levels on the landscaping outside weren't right, so the water was basically just running into the cottage and down through the timber. So we took an early decision, probably within about a few days, to rip the whole lot back to bare brick in the cottage section, and that was including all the floors, renewed all the timbers. We even renewed the mains water, the drains, and everything. Just, it was one of these ones where the property's about 120-year-old. You might as well do it right. You're going back to this extent. do the thing right and strip it right back. So yeah, that was quite challenging, that part.
And obviously, there's a lot of moaning about at the moment. You know, people saying there's no deals out there. I can't find any deals to flip projects. I've got to say, I'm probably one of those that are guilty myself. Do you know what I mean? I'll hold my hands up. But like thinking right back to start there when you were talking about your network and all that and your mastermind, then that really stands out to me. That's basically, I know you've got another couple of deals on the go, like flip projects and all that, and pretty much all from your network, isn't it? You know, like the opportunities are coming to you because of your network.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I wanted to create this mastermind group, was to be around the fire, people that really want to change their lives and do something different, or get involved in property or flip properties, build a buy let portfolio. And it builds relationships up with the right people, and people that want to work together, people that want to do deals together. And there's enough profit in that, in the Kinross deal and the other ones that are coming off. They're almost 6-figure profits. They're enough to split it 2 or 3 ways, and you still get a nice share of the profit of it. And the beauty of it is they're loving it because they've basically got an apprenticeship in property development. They get to learn as like a little apprenticeship, and learn how to do a project, stick to a budget, stick to a time frame, stuff like that. So it's a complete win-win. And obviously the guys that I brought onto the Kinross project, one was my brother, a joiner, and one was a plumbing heating engineer. So they both brought a great skill set to the table that done a lot of the site work as well.
And for those people who are not in such a fortunate enough position to be getting deals landing on their table, what tips would you give to people, who are just starting out, who are looking for flip projects, who are finding the market tough, who are struggling to get something? Have you got any advice at all?
They are there. The flip, I mean, don't get me wrong, I completely agree the market's hot, and if you're trying to find a buy to let where you leave next to no money in it or a few grand in it, they are getting harder and harder to find because of how hot the market is. But flip projects are a completely different animal, because you're not looking at trying to get the property cheaper, you're trying to add the value. So if you can look at it as creative as you can, to add the value, whether it be a dormer extension or an extension at the back, or open plan something, or change the layout, you can get creative with that, which means you don't necessarily need to find the property cheaper. You don't need to necessarily go on the market and lowball each property. You can pay over if the numbers make sense. Now, looking at the projected numbers on Kinross, you could have paid over the 135 grand and still made a decent bit of profit, but the numbers were based on 230, 240, not up at 262 or even 275. So if you had the right good handle on, and obviously the market's changed and maybe the market's settled a little bit now, but if you were looking at that property right now, you could probably see that it was worth between 275 and 300. So really, you can pay a hell of a lot more than 135 to get that property. So yeah, they are there. It just needs to find a creative way of looking at it and looking at how you can add the value. And obviously, it's not as it's plain black and white as add the value to the property. There's a lot of things that will go into the thought process as well, like the area, the demographics, the economy in the area, the demand in the area. What's the demand for that specific area and that street? So there's a lot goes into the due diligence process on them.
A couple of wee points that were going through my head there. Some people are getting stuck possibly with the end values, and rightly so. People are finding the comparable and saying, right, well, that's the nearest comparable there, and that's the end value. But what we're finding is, and I mean, I know it's a bit more risky, right? But you might just need to take that little bit extra risk and say, well, I can smash that ceiling price if I do a really good quality refurb. I mean, I think you'll be struggling to find a comparable in Kinross,
yeah,
of 270, 280 grand for that style of property, anywhere.
Yeah, all absolutely. All the flips that I do, like, I'm not in a fortunate position to be sitting in Edinburgh or Glasgow. I'm doing projects like this in small, villages and towns where you're no chance of finding a comparable. You really have to. There is a little bit of a risk element to it, but you do enough due diligence and you have enough kind of track record and experience to kind of think about the bigger picture, that you can kind of get an accurate valuation on, or where your end value is going to be. Because I mean, the Kinross one, Viewfield Terrace, even in Dunfermline, like King's Kettle, these type of houses I've done in the last couple of years, there was never comparables to actually accurately do it. But you mitigate that through your numbers. So you've kind of got your budget, your refurb budget, and your time scale. But you've also got in your your end value, but my end value is always conservative on each kind of property. So you know that if you're just say let's say for instance you're setting out to make £40,000 profit and you've lowered the end value, if you do as good as you think you're going to do and you smash the end value, then you know you're going to make a lot more money, and you know you've got a buffer on the budget to go over if anything unexpected comes up as well.
You really have to. There is a little bit of risk.
Oh, sorry, mate. You all right? Are you there?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just clicked the wrong button there. Yeah. Keep going. Yeah.
No, yeah, you're 100% right. There's a bit of a risk factor on it from figuring out these end values, and you've got to just do as much due diligence as you can.
And then obviously we're streaming this live in the Facebook group. Fenella has asked about the spec, standard that you do them up to. Now, obviously it really depends on your kind of end market, and if you're in a kind of high end area, then obviously you can afford to spend more because people will pay that premium at the end. But that's one of the things I noticed about your latest projects. You're not scrimping on the spend, and you're putting in good quality shit.
I should get a testimonial from this, right? But the last workshop I had, I gave the details of contacts, trades, and spec that I'm using for flips. And the day after a couple of days after the last workshop, a guy used my account to go to Porcelain Rosa Tiles, and on his first flip, he saved the price of the workshop on the tiles that I'd saved them. And I should have got. Do you know what? I'll screenshot this and post this because I'm going to use that as a testimonial. Basically, you don't need to spend ridiculous money. Like, everyone thinks that when you put down, a Porcelain Rosa bathroom suite that you're spending tens of thousands. You're not. Like, you can, like, I've got an account there that you negotiate tiles. I mean, I've done it for my own house, and that was the original reason why I got this account. I don't know if I should be saying this on air.
We'll cut it.
But you know what I mean? The tiles cost £110 a square metre. I mean, like, when you get on my account, it was like £20.75 a square metre. Like, a huge saving. So it's the same cost as going to B&Q and getting a tile. You're getting a phenomenal
£10 a square metre. Well, I think that if you start putting down rubbish at £10 a square metre, then it's just not going to work.
You can see it a mile away, can you? Whereas you just pick a better quality. And the flooring as well, in Kinross was oak herringbone flooring. So I mean, but I found it online. I scoured online for a couple of hours and found it for £1,100 for something like, was it 54 square meters? Like, it wasn't that expensive. I mean, if I was buying laminate flooring, it probably would have cost me £600 or £700. So it wasn't that much more to buy a better spec on these properties. And then obviously things like kitchens, you can use magnet LMPG and stuff like that. So yeah, there's definitely ways to put in a huge spec, but without hitting your pocket hard.
And was that you part of your role in the kind of joint venture? Were you the guy sourcing the materials and negotiating on the prices and stuff like that? Is that what you do as part of your?
Yeah, that was pretty much my role on this one, was just to kind of coordinate the project, source the materials, organise the trades and stuff, and the timescale and the budget. But because I'd actually did spend a lot more time on Kinross than I would have liked. But I think it was due to the situation that we were in. When we just came out of lockdown, I think I'd pent up demand. I wanted to be out the house. I wanted to be on site. So I think for the first week I was on site with the guys, just like ripping it out, ripping all the lath out, just enjoying being out the house. So I kind of ended up getting sucked in a little bit too much than I would normally have done being on site. But I enjoy the process. I always enjoy the process. Always enjoy the kind of the end product.
Thanks for sharing all that, man. That's a really good share. I mean, it's great that people have got access to this, that can actually see.
No, I hope people can take value from it. It's there's definitely these opportunities out there. And I mean, that Kinross is a town with 6, maybe 7,000 people in it, so it doesn't have to be huge places. You can be in bespoke areas and small places and small towns and villages where you can spot these opportunities. In actual fact, I think the opportunities can be spotted a bit easier in these places, because I think people in smaller places kind of get they kind of get stuck in their own way, and if there's a boarded up cottage next to them, they just go like, oh, it's that boarded up cottage, and they're going to go past it.
Aye, exactly, 100%. And from start to finish, so like July to end of January, so what, 7 months? 6-7 months?
6 months. It was just over the 6 months point, just 6 months and a week or 2 weeks.
during 2 lockdowns, possibly 3 lockdowns, probably you had problems with getting materials, delays and stuff like that. So to actually see that getting done, such a big project, and go and check out the photos, guys, you'll see it. It's basically, they were digging up soil within the building like there was nothing. So they ripped the whole thing back to brick, and that is a phenomenal result, man. So well done, and thanks for sharing on the Scottish Property Podcast.
No problem at all, mate. Thank you.
So thanks for listening, guys. That's the end of another episode. Hope you got some value out of that. As always, if you are not a member of the Facebook group, please go and join that, where people are sharing their success stories. If you don't follow us on Instagram, you can follow us at Scottish Property Podcast. Stephen Clark, what's your tag?
At Stephen Clark Property.
And it's Nick_Ponte. We are going to be doing a clubhouse actually in the next 5 minutes. So if anybody's on the live Facebook group here and wants to head over on Clubhouse, we're going to be doing a live room where we'll just get a wee discussion going. And it's a new thing for us, Stephen. So we're going to start trying to build up a wee bit of a following there. Yeah,
well, we're thinking about doing it from the interviews and the discussions that we've had on the podcast the following week. Once it's been out for a week, was jump on Clubhouse and kind of follow the discussion and continue on the discussion rather with the guest as well. Hopefully, if they can make it, then they can come back on. People can ask questions and interact with the guests and dig deeper into the content that was discussed.
And if you're not on Clubhouse, then you can contact me, because I've got 3 invites. It's like the Willy Wonka's golden tickets, and I've been dishing them out to people, and I've got 3 left. So hit me up my DMs and we'll get you in there. Thanks very much for listening, guys. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys.